is going to be, I think, a fun night, an opportunity for us to dialogue with the author about her book, its meaning, and why she wrote that kind of thing. And then also to talk about one of the profile educators, about why he's an educator, and maybe a few insights about what it means to be a true educator and a hero in the classroom himself. So thank you all for being here. And at this time, I really just want to turn it over to Dr. Dean Weaver, our Dean of the Teachers College, Ken Weaver.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And on behalf of the Alumni Association and the National Teachers Hall of Fame and the Teachers College at Emporia State University, thank you so much for being here. We have a wonderful evening planned, of course, recognizing extraordinary teachers, working hard to prepare outstanding teachers, something Emporia State has been doing for the last 150 years. I just want to make one brief remark about what we're still working and trying to do in terms of advancing teaching out in the public schools around Kansas. We will start this coming August with a one-to-one iPad initiative for all of our elementary education majors. So we've gone through all the different levels of review, and we're moving forward with this. We've had our elementary faculty working, getting training from Apple, and they have some more training left to do. They'll be working during the summer. This is not to replace any of the pedagogy. This is to understand the pedagogy of the iPad. We have about 107 school districts in the state of Kansas that have adopted a one-to-one initiative of some kind of technology, whether it be the iPad or the Chromebook or a notebook or whatever. So we've made this commitment with our elementary ed majors, and of course we're allowing them to bring their own iPads. We've set some specifications, but this will be starting in August, and we're very appreciative to information technology, our IT person, our IT group, for making this possible. But that's just an example of what needs to be done to continue to prepare outstanding teachers so that we can continue to inspire the students around the state and the students around the nation. Thanks to technology, we have this wonderful opportunity for Katrina Fried to join us, the author of this wonderful book, American Teacher, Heroes in the Classroom. We are making complimentary copies available to all the high schools that are in all the school districts around Lyon County and in Lyon County. So Katrina will be giving this to 17 principals. One of the principals is here tonight, and we'll recognize her at the end of the evening. Let me tell you a little bit about Katrina. She's an award-winning author from New York City. I heard about Katrina before I even knew about this book. She's the author of American Heroes, Everyday People Changing the World. And so I was familiar with this book before I realized that Katrina was the author of this marvelous book. Her publisher, or the publisher, Random House, has defined the Everyday People Changing the World as a groundbreaking visual book introducing the stories and causes of 50 courageous individuals who have made an astonishing difference in the lives of others. So what a great segue for the next act to focus and identify the 50 extraordinary educators around the nation. And that's what Katrina has done with her book, American Teacher, Heroes in the Classroom. 2 years interviewing and writing the stories of 50 of the nation's most passionate teachers from kindergarten through 12th grade, selected from public schools and charter schools across the United States. 2 of these extraordinary teachers are Hornets, the only university represented by 2 alumni in the book. One of them is Josh. Josh is here. Tyler's going to introduce Josh. We are thrilled. And Josh is not only here tonight, but he's also going to inspire our student teachers who are graduating tomorrow. And then he will also be able to give some remarks, or will be giving some remarks tomorrow night on our Teachers College Honors Banquet. So thank you so much for being here, Josh, for gracing us. Ron Poplau, who is at Shawnee Mission Northwest High School, is a second Hornet being recognized in this wonderful book. Ron could not be here tonight, but Tyler went up and provided Ron a copy of the book at an assembly earlier today at Shawnee Mission Northwest. American Teacher has been awarded a silver medal in social change from Nautilus Books, and the independent publishers have awarded this book a gold medal for Peacemaker of the Year. Ford Reviews has nominated the book for Book of the Year in Education. So I would say, Katrina, very well received around the nation. We are so delighted that you are able to join us. We're so thankful for the technology of our information technology people to be able to bring you to us, I think from San Francisco, is that correct?
Anyway, yes, just north.
All right, very good. So without further ado, please give Katrina a warning welcome from the fall.
Thank you so much to Nina for that lovely introduction. And thanks too to Tyler Curtis and Emporia State, particularly the Teachers College and the National Teachers Hall of Fame, for inviting me to be with you through, as you point out, what is truly to me still magic of technology. I'm honored to be here and to share just a few of the things that I've learned and been touched by throughout the creation of this book. American Teacher is a love letter to teachers everywhere, past and present, who have worked and continue to work ferociously to give our kids the educations that they deserve. So this book is for you, for educators, for administrators, for parents, for students, and maybe above all, for those gutsy and big-hearted individuals who are preparing to make teaching their career, their passion, their life. It may be a cliche, but that makes it no less a truth. Teaching is the most generous, loving, and noble profession there is. So American Teacher shines a spotlight on 50 truly outstanding educators from all over the country, from kindergarten through 12th grade, and it invites readers into their classrooms to really witness their methods and achievements and impact firsthand. So much of the public conversation taking place in the country about our struggling education system focuses on the negatives, the failures, the alarming statistics that point to our dismal global rankings. These are real problems, but I was more interested in exploring success within the existing system to focus on teachers who have found solutions that truly work and see what we can learn from them. And boy, did I learn. I came to this project with little specialized knowledge about the teaching profession, and I approached it as I think any eager student would, with ravenous curiosity and enthusiasm. Because what better way, I thought, to learn about the American education system than through the experiences and the eyes of some of our most extraordinary teachers. And what I came to believe, my personal takeaway, is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution to fixing what's broken systemically. That what we must ultimately adopt is an approach that empowers and nurtures individual teachers, administrations, school districts to be their own architects of change and growth. Because circumstances and environments are so widely different from one school to the next. The student populations, the available resources, the administrative cultures, and on and on. No two schools are exactly alike. Yet what I also found among the teachers included in the book is that they do, in fact, share many common qualities, regardless of their differing styles in the classroom or personal backgrounds, regardless of age group or subject matter they teach. And when I arrived at the end of the research and writing process, I found myself thinking more and more about what might be learned from those commonalities, which I ultimately boiled down to the 12 rules for being a true classroom hero, which you see on your screen now and I think will come up again. And they are, rule number 1, rules are made to be broken, by which I only mean that great teachers have to know when to throw out the rule book and follow their instincts. Rule number 2, all for one and one for all. Our best teachers believe that taking the time to foster a classroom culture that's built on mutual respect and tolerance really sets the stage for authentic learning. Rule number 3, bring your passions into the classroom. To keep the fires burning, as one teacher described it to me, many teachers are integrating their own interests and passions into their curriculum. Rule number 4, never teach to the test. And I think that one speaks for itself. Rule number 5, keep it real. Giving kids an authentic purpose and real-world context for learning completely changes their capacity to assimilate information. Rule number 6, there is no such thing as an unteachable child, and that's a big one. Rule number 7, necessity is the mother of all invention, which is probably just as much a rule for life as it is for teachers. Rule number 8, produce good people, not just good students. Rule number 9, the future is now. Very apropos of Dean Lever's introduction. Already many of the great teachers that you'll meet in this book have found that the integration of technology and education is a game changer. Rule number 10, be the person you want your students to become. Or as Gandhi once said, be the change you want to see in the world. Rule number 11, you can't do it alone. The vast majority of classroom heroes have learned firsthand that mentorship and collaboration are requisites to becoming the best teachers that they can be. And last but not least, rule number 12, be a student of your students. Or as Jay Hoffman, who was Vermont's 2013 Teacher of the Year, said to me, think you're going to teach, but boy, do you learn. So the men and women in this book embody nearly every one of these rules as teachers, and yet the rules alone do not solely define their achievements in the classroom. Each has sought out and created their own path to excellence, added their own special sauce to their personal recipes for success. And that's what makes them so exceptional. Because great teaching is as much, if not more, an art as it is a science. The 12 rules are part of that science, but the rest is pure art. And every one of the 50 educators that I selected has found their own creative and individual ways to thrive in their unique and often deeply challenging environments. So take, for instance, Jason Chung, a shining example of rule number 7, necessity is the mother of all invention. When Jason accepted his first teaching job out of graduate school as an itinerant music teacher in the Philadelphia Public School District, serving 7 different schools and hundreds of students around the city, he was rightly shocked to learn that his entire annual music budget was just $100. And rather than throw up his hands, as I surely would have done, he went out and bought a slew of plastic paint buckets from Home Depot for $2.80 a pop, and he introduced his students to the urban art of bucket drumming. Well, they loved it. And Chung has since cultivated a citywide ensemble of young drummers. His imaginative approach even caught the attention of President Obama, who publicly praised his program, and earned him an audience with U.S. Secretary of Education Arne Duncan. Or consider the story of Jane Clearbow. Jane grew up poor, and achieving financial freedom and independence was understandably extremely important to her. She worked her way through school, eventually receiving her MBA, and ambitiously pursued a very lucrative career on Wall Street. But on her 36th birthday, Jane experienced a powerful moment of reckoning. For all the bonuses, the perks, the financial wealth she had acquired, she began to think about what of substance she had actually contributed to the world. What footprint, what legacy did she want to leave behind? That self-questioning eventually led her to walk away from her high-yield corporate job to instead teach AP statistics and microeconomics to at-risk inner-city high school kids in Harlem. Bowes attacked her second career in the classroom with the same ferocious ambition that made her a star in the boardroom. And the results are astonishing. Despite their economic, social, and educational disadvantages, her kids' AP test scores simply blow away the national averages year after year. It's proof positive, according to Val, that all children can learn with the right mix of compassion, dedication, and commitment. A notion that goes straight to the heart of rule number 6. There is no such thing as an unteachable child. There are another 48 equally powerful and inspiring stories of educators and American teacher who are dramatically changing, even saving the lives of the students that are lucky enough to sit in their classrooms every day. And two of them are your very own local heroes and Emporia State alumni, Ron Poplau and Josh Anderson. In the making of the book, often the final decision to include a particular teacher came in those first moments just after I concluded an interview and found myself thinking, God, I would have killed to have had this person as my teacher when I was a kid. And in both Ron's and Josh's cases, that thought came like thunder. My second thought, after talking with Ron, was why doesn't every public high school in America offer a class like his? Ron teaches community service to juniors and seniors at Shawnee Mission Northwest High School. He's been in the classroom for 52 years, and he shows no obvious signs of retiring. Because he loves it. Because he lives and breathes it. His classroom motto, "The doer of good becomes good," could well be the perfect title for his as yet unwritten life story. A story which begins with Ron as the child of an illiterate immigrant father and ends with him as the teacher that has taught thousands of children the deep and abiding power of those 6 simple words. The doer of good becomes good. Ron's experiences have taught him to understand the true value of an education as few of us ever will. And he is a powerful representative of rule number 8, produce good people, not just good students. His award-winning community service program has activated generations of young people to recognize their capacity to better the world around them, and the world has taken notice. The recipient of countless awards, Poplau has been a guest of the White House and an inductee of the Teachers Hall of Fame, and his program has been honored by the governor of Kansas and modeled by schools across the country. Every day, more than 100 of his upperclassmen fan out into their community to help the poor, the elderly, and the disadvantaged. The impact is humbling. And I am so happy that English teacher, debate, speech, and forensics coach, and no doubt future teacher, Hall of Famer, Josh Anderson is here tonight being celebrated. And I'm even happier that I am speaking to you before and not after he shares his remarks, as no doubt his oratory skills will put mine to shame. I think I first knew just how special a teacher Josh was the moment he told me about his anthology project, in which his high school English students spent an entire semester answering a single philosophical question of their own choosing, like, what is beauty? Or, can we achieve world peace? They explore these questions through writing a series of process essays over a period of months, and at the end of the year, they finally print out all 100 or so pages of their work and collect it into scrapbooks, which they personalize and decorate themselves as an archive of what they've achieved. I mean, how cool is that? All I could think about for days after our conversation was, what would my question have been? And not surprisingly, Josh is also a terrific example of rule number 4, never teach to the test. And he speaks eloquently and passionately about the intense emphasis on standardized testing in America. In fact, when I'm asked about this subject in interviews, I often quote Josh, who said, exceptional test scores, brilliant job applicants, and competitive colleges should simply be byproducts of a great education, not the sole purpose of it. And everything about the way Josh teaches and coaches honors that statement. Josh, Ron, Jane, Jason, and the rest of the men and women in American Teacher all embody that mixture I spoke about of artistry and skill that makes a very good teacher great. Every moment of every day, each of these heroic teachers gives 100% of themselves to their students. Neil Singh, who teaches AP Environmental Science at LaGuardia High School in New York, described the intensity of teaching to me this way. When I'm on fire, he said, I'm on fire. But when I go home, I collapse. But while I'm in the classroom, I give my 9th period the same energy as I give my 1st. And this constant exertion, or what 5th grade teacher Dave Prumbine calls the brute force of teacher power, requires tremendous stamina, passion, and commitment. We have all experienced what it feels like to sit in the sunlight of such a teacher. It's no less than life-changing. I know this because the great teachers of my childhood continue to live inside of me to this day. And I am certain this is true for nearly all of us. In the small and big moments of my life, they people my thoughts and influence my decision-making. Their lessons and examples still guide me, challenge me, inspire me. That is their legacy. And I hope that this book will be a part of mine. Thank you so much. And I would be happy to answer questions. And if, by the way, we don't get to a question for one reason or another, you probably find the answer at welcomebooks.com/American Teacher, where there's Q&As, there's videos, and a whole lot more.
So should I look into this next? Go ahead. So Katrina, that was marvelous, and that's a great reason, I think, why Parker Palmer was attracted to this project, to have him write the foreword for your book. Could you describe how that process occurred, how you connected with him, and what he saw when he was going through what you had created?
I am so sorry, but for some reason the audio is now cutting in and out, and I'm hearing like every 5th word.
So that's good. I was asking about Parker Palmer. And to describe the process where you connected with him and he had the chance to look at this book and see what you had created and said, I want to be a part of this project.
Well, Parker is so well known in the education world. He was just right at the top of our list of people that we thought of instantly to write the introduction. And fortunately, when he looked at the material, he was inspired to write us a wonderful piece, which I think sets the stage for the book really beautifully. He's an amazing guy, and I was proud and felt really lucky that he agreed to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I have a question. Can I just ask it?
Don't be shy.
Okay, it sounds like a wonderful book. I can't wait to read it, but I would like to know, how did you choose these 50 teachers?
How did I choose them?
Yes.
That's a great question. It was difficult, and I always like to say and be clear that it would be impossible. 3 million teachers in this country, right? Public school teachers, so exponentially more when you open that up to private and graduate schools and undergraduate. But we had to start somewhere, and we began by looking at really kind of all the major award-winning teachers in the country. So we looked at all the National Teacher Awards going back a number of years, as well as a number of the nominees, and various other teaching awards. And we sort of drilled down from there. The ultimate goal was to curate a list of 50 teachers that represented as well as we could the diversity that was out there. So that meant geographic diversity, it meant young and old teachers, it meant those who were coming to this as a second career, and teachers who had been in the classroom for, like Rob, for 50 years. I actually think he's been teaching longer than any other teacher in the book. We have a couple teachers that have only been in the classroom for 2 or 3 years. It does include public and public charter school teachers, but the range of subjects is, totally representative of what you would find in any school, and the age groups of the students. So there was certainly subjectivity, but it began with the most objective criteria that we could think of, and that was, looking at teachers that had been honored by their communities, by their states, by their students, and starting from there. It's difficult. It was difficult because in this case, unlike the book that Dean Weaver mentioned, Every Heroes, teachers are very private people, and they are not easy to reach. So it's trickier, and it took a lot more work, actually, to really learn about who they were and what their stories were, which is another big part of the book. Telling not only what their methods and approaches are like in the classroom, but also what their path to the classroom was. So what their own personal stories were that led them to teaching, that drove them to pursue it. So it really was a mix of all these different criteria. Ultimately, not wanting to have too much repetition and wanting to just give, I think we wanted to create as many access points as possible so that anyone who picks up this book is going to find a story in here and a teacher that they can identify with. That was long-winded.
Other questions?
Hello. I am very curious to hear a little bit more about rule number 9, the feature is now. I guess I'm one of the GTAs in the psych department, and it's been very interesting talking to my colleagues about how they like to introduce technology into their classrooms. So I'd be very interested to hear a little bit more about what you found in your book as far as the features now and the differences that the faculty members and the teachers that you met had their perspectives on it.
I heard one word you said, and it was technology. So sorry.
That's a microphone too.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So I'm very curious to hear a little bit more about rule number 9 and the technology, just kind of what the different teachers that you ran into, what their different philosophies were. Just because the cohort that I'm working with, the GTAs in the psych department, that's been something that we've been talking about very, very much, is certain ones are being very proactive in introducing more technology. Some of us, probably like myself, are a little bit slower to adopt technology in the classroom. So I'm just very curious to see what other things you found on that front.
I heard most of it, not all of it, so forgive me and direct me if I don't completely answer what you're asking. Technology, I think my sense is from all these teachers, it is a feeling that it's coming, it's here, and whether everybody is excited about embracing it or not, there's no way for us not to integrate technology into the classroom as we look towards the future. And it's started to happen, but it isn't happening fast enough, I think, in most teachers' eyes. And there's some wonderful examples of teachers that are doing really cool things with technology. Dave Crumbine, teacher, and he's an English teacher. He teaches 5th grade, and his passion is computers, and so he has turned his English class into a computer lab. Every kid has their own computer, and he has found a way to really make that a part of their learning process. Get them excited about it. Other teachers have really started experimenting and working with the flipped classroom model. There's a teacher in the book named Stevie Park who's in Palo Alto, California, who had been approached to do a total flipped classroom for math. And it was a huge learning curve for her, and I think that's one of the things that's really, that's important to emphasize, is that introducing this kind of technology into the classroom is often has to be an education for the teacher before it's an education for the kids. So having teacher programs to train and to help teachers learn how to use this technology is critical. Esther Wishkiki, who's actually also in Poplau, one of the things she does is she travels around the country and she does these incredible sort of seminars with teachers so they can learn how to use technology in their classroom and not be afraid of it and to embrace it and see how it can make their jobs, I think, not more challenging, but actually easier in many cases. And then it opens up worlds for their kids that are really unimaginable. There's another really cool teacher in the book, Greg Schwanbach, who actually, he has his kids scan, he puts QR codes on their test results. So that when they get their test back, they scan their QR code and they get some message if they've gotten 100 points on their test if they've aced it. And he loves to play around with that. He puts them all over the classroom. He also uses text messaging to update his kids on homework assignments and things like that. So, the idea that every classroom is going to ultimately have, a one-to-one program within the next 10 years, I mean, that has to happen, I think.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else? All right. Let's give Katrina another round of applause. Certainly my honor tonight to introduce our next speaker, who is Josh Anderson. Josh is a Hornet, and we're very proud of the fact that he's a Hornet. He graduated in 1997 from Emporia State University. Within 10 years, and this is amazing to me, but within 10 years after graduation, he had already been acknowledged as the Kansas Teacher of the Year. And he's also a National Teacher of the Year finalist. I just learned over dinner that Josh is, of course, he has been a language arts teacher, he's been a speech teacher, he also teaches debate and forensics, does debate and forensics exclusively now with a little bit of speech in there. But of the 4,000 debate forensics programs across the nation, Josh coaches the 20th largest. So when we talk about somebody that's been recognized as one of 50 profile teachers, he's also got one of the debate programs of 4,000. He's in the top 20. He's coached numerous debate championships at a national level as well. So you talk about an achiever, I think you talk about Josh Anderson, and we are so proud to have him here tonight. Please welcome Hornet Josh Anderson.
Well, thank you. I want to start by saying thank you, Katrina. Without her, none of this would be possible. And I tell you what, you mentioned, Katrina, that teachers find it very difficult to open up and to reveal themselves because it is such a private act and because it comes from such a deep place. And one of the things that I know that some of my colleagues have found in this process is that when you're asked, well, what makes a good teacher, or what do you do in your classroom, it is hard to reach down and answer that question because it is both private and it is instinctual. And to put it in the forefront of your brain rather than let it just articulate through what you do is powerful. And so, Katrina, you are to be commended for managing to capture 50 stories of the 50,000 that you could tell in such concise and beautiful prose and language. And as I read the book for the first time, I was overwhelmed with how well you captured not only my voice, but the voice of the other people in the book. So I want to thank you for this process. It's opened up opportunities for me and I'm sure the other people. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time out tonight. And we appreciate it. And I have to begin by also thanking Emporia State for a variety of reasons. I'll get into some of them tomorrow night. But I've got my friends, Carol Strickland is here. Carol has known me from day one. And hers was the first classroom that I stepped into as part of the phase program through observation. She was literally the very first teacher that I saw teach as an emergent teacher. And she has stayed by my side, foolish on her part, but she stayed by my side ever since then. And of course, we were colleagues together in the debate and forensics community. And so, I remember Dean Weaver from my time here, and it's great reconnecting with Tyler as well, and meeting new friends for the first time. I will tell you, without stealing too many remarks from tomorrow night, Emporia State is what it says it is. It is the teacher's college. It is a producer of teachers. It is not a producer of people with teaching degrees. It is a producer of teachers. And there is an enormous distinction. And as I have been in the teaching field for the past 17 years, there is an enormous difference between a teacher and someone who simply holds the license. All teachers begin from a place of passion. All teachers have that passion within them. Sometimes politics redirects, sometimes economy redirects, but all teachers begin with the core passion. We talk about how the most important concepts in education these days, and you can say them with me, are rigor, relevance, and relationships. And those are making the circuits, and they're all good and they're all necessary. And when we look at rigor, I have to be honest with you, education has changed this much in only my short time. When I first started teaching, the students took the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. You shut down school for a day, the teachers administered it with no warning to either the teacher or the student, and you never saw the test scores again. And that was true in my first district. I'm sure there are other districts that are certainly exceptions, but I have yet to meet a teacher who administered the Iowa Test of Basic Skills and then really ever saw anything of that data. Fast forward 10 years to the start of No Child Left Behind. Fast forward 6 years to the start of No Child Left Behind. When we enter a phase where rigor is the predominant feature, it's the predominant driving force in education, because you have that accountability piece and you have that way of measuring students that we hadn't had before. Relevance comes into play because now you have things like Common Core, which we could talk about. I'm a big fan of Common Core. I think it's misunderstood. I think Common Core is good for children. I think we're confused by it, and I think confusion is good. If you look at the cycle of learning, and this is what I tell my debaters on the first day of school, we begin in a place of ignorance, and ignorance is blissful. It is the spring, it is the summer before the winter. You know that winter is coming, but you do not know yet what harsh means. You have only heard tale. And so when any of us heard about Common Core for the first time, and Katrina, this may be true for you, whenever any of us heard of Common Core, we thought, well, this sounds great. We finally got on the same page. A kid from Mississippi moves to Massachusetts, and that kid does not suffer a deficit or an advantage walking into the classroom, and it is we're all now speaking the same language. So we put these out in the field, and people go nuts, because it is confusing, because you cannot wrap your head around it. When we begin in places of ignorance, that precedes confusion, and confusion is the best thing that can ever happen to us, because confusion precedes understanding. You cannot have understanding without confusion. And if you skip from ignorance to understanding, that's great, you're watching an episode of Jeopardy, but it's not true knowledge, it's not something that stays with you, it's not that sea change, it's not something that reinforces who you are. So when we encounter something like Common Core, it causes us to question what is true in education and what is not true in education. How much teacher buy-in do we need to the writing process? How much of it is about process and how much of it is about product? The best description I've ever heard of Common Core, how many of you have seen the crazy math homework examples of Common Core? And you look at that, and people are using that as fodder for sort of, no, this is why we should not do Common Core. And you ask math teachers, and they say, this is why we should do Common Core. And a friend of mine pointed out to me, and he said it perfectly. He said, look, we now have computers. All of us at this moment have access to 17 computers that can add and subtract 25-digit numbers. We are no longer living in an age where we need to teach students math the way that we were taught math, because we have different tools now, and our kids have different tools now. What we need is a way of conceptualizing and understanding math. That was what was missing from our curriculum when we were children, and it is what now is part of the Common Core curriculum. But it's confusing, and it's not easy. So confusion is good. I love confusion. My debaters, it's a tough subject, debaters. They learn in the first month of school how to be confused and how to embrace that confusion. The relevance is good because it ties that confusion to the real world. It says, here is your smaller experience, here is just a metaphor for something larger, and I want to show you the world. And that's where the confusion comes into place. But my favorite part, and the part that is essential, is the relationships. Every good teacher understands the importance of relationships, and it's the one that is underplayed in education because it is impossible to measure. You simply cannot measure the relationship that teachers have with her or his students. It can't be standardized, it can't be measured. Administrators can understand it from a distance. Colleagues can understand it from a difference. Teachers sometimes understand it. For every parent who says, my child did not have a positive experience, you might have 5 parents who said, my child had a wonderful experience. because we all need different people in our lives. I think when relevance is the driving force in our teachers' classrooms, that is what produces the hero in the classroom. And it all goes back to a very simple quotation, one you remember. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's what drives children. That's what drives children to gravitate toward teachers of any age. Doesn't matter if it's high school, doesn't matter if it's university, doesn't matter if it's elementary. When you know that the person in the front of the room understands you and gets you, you will move heaven and earth to be successful in that teacher's classroom. And even if you're not 100% successful, those are the teachers that you remember 5, 10, 15, 25 years from now. And I guarantee you, if I asked you to remember the teachers in your lives who made a difference in your life, you will be able to isolate by name the teachers who best understood you. There are some who challenged you. There are some who probably had fun classes, but it's the teachers who got you, who understood you, who you had that close connection with. That's the driving force. That's something that we're not necessarily investing in as heavily as we're investing in rigor and relevance. That's where the science and the art come crashing together in a beautiful cacophony of what the heck are we going to do? Because we're not sure whether any deficit we have in education is due to teachers, or is it due to funding, or is it due to the job market, or is it due to the economy? So we are certain of one thing: education is changing and it is confusing, and people are all coming from different angles as to what to do. Those on the inside have their solutions, those on the outside have their solutions. But at the end of the day, the one piece that we must remain dedicated to above anything else are the relationships. You can't hire a pool of people who can do the relationship piece. That's the art. I think you can teach people how to build relationships. I think you can teach teachers how to build relationships. But until you have a teacher in the classroom who truly cares about his students, who truly understands her students, you have someone who is not yet in a position to really change lives. That relationship piece, for me, is at the heart of my classroom. That, for me, when Katrina asked me, another asked me, what is it that makes you a teacher? I think it took me months to figure it out. But it's the relationship piece. And it's getting my kids, it's understanding my kids. Understanding them, in part, so you can nurture, but also so that you could nag. And that nurture and nag piece is so important. And when someone gets you, they're there to block you from the wrong path, and they're there to welcome you down the correct path. And that's what I found out with my students. That's what I'm able to do, and it's intuitive. It's not something that I was taught. It's intuitive that I get my students. And if I don't get my students, I fundamentally understand that I don't get my students, and I fix that. I figure out ways to include them in the process. And for me, and I'll close with this, the best moment of a school year isn't the opening day and it isn't the closing day, although those are rivals. For me, the best day of the school year is the day that kid who I didn't get and who didn't get me, and we butted heads, and I told myself, we should turn off the cameras now. I told myself, this kid and I aren't getting along. Not gonna happen. And I kind of had that little conversation in my head that well, okay, can't teach them all. It's the day that I win that kid over. And that kid and I are simpatico. And I get him, and he gets me, and we form that relationship, and we are good. We are good for the rest of the year. And so far I've been able to do it with 99% of the kids. There's some that, just never gel. But that to me is the core passion of what I do. And when asked the question, what do you do as a teacher? That's it. It's the relationship piece. And that's the part that no matter how we talk about education, no matter how we talk about education policy, that's the part we can't leave behind. It was Jim Collins, author of Good to Great, who said, yes, you should know what you want to change. But first, you've got to figure out what you can never change in an education. It's that relationship piece that can never change. So thank you for having me here. And Katrina, thank you again for being here. I set it up so that you could only hear every fifth word, because according to my students, that's all you really need to
So, Josh, you've got this wealth of experience in the classroom. You've also got a wealth of experience of talking about education and talking to others about education around the state, around the region, around the nation. You know, you look into your crystal ball and say over the next 5 to 10 years, any trends that you see emerging, any critical changes you see coming for P-12 education in America?
and that's a great question. And boy, if I had the answer, I wouldn't be sitting here. And that's where the confusion comes in, because we don't yet know where we need education to be, because everyone has a different idea. I think the following things are true. I think we're not going to ever let go of the accountability piece, and I think we shouldn't ever let go of the accountability piece. I mean, let's face it, for decades, our nation had better teachers than it deserved. If you were a woman or you were a minority in this country, in the early part of the century, you had 2 career choices for you. You had secretarial work and you had education. We had the best and brightest minds of both pools of people walk into our classrooms, and they were brilliant at what they did, and we got the best out of them. Education has changed, and our teaching population is more diverse in terms of its background, in terms of, we don't necessarily have the top 10% coming into our classrooms. I think that accountability piece is still important. It's important inside the classroom, inside the school building, and it's important outside the school building as well. I think the other piece that has to happen is we have to focus more on product, not on necessarily the knowledge base. In my world, I went through the whole No Child Left Behind, the day that it was passed to the day that it was replaced. That was a classroom, and Katrina, you talk about not teaching to the test. And that was all about teaching to the test. It was, here are your 32 curricular indicators. You'll have 4 questions on the state assessment. I mean, this is the world I lived in for 7 years. You have 4 questions on each of the 32 indicators. That is your state assessment. Now proceed. We'll see you in May. And it was all knowledge-based. And so at the end of that, students didn't have the processes. They didn't have the products. And I think that's what's missing. And I think that's what Common Core attempts to replace, is the product side of it, the process side of it. That you understand why you're engaging in that. So I think the 2 things have to come together. I think you need the accountability piece, but I think you need the process and the product piece. The problem is, when are we going to have the wherewithal to fund assessments that can measure advanced skills? We got real good in this country about measuring basic skills. But we don't have the ability to measure advanced skills, and that is to our deficit. As more jobs are being shipped out overseas and replaced by automatics and computers, we're less in need of teaching basic skills and more in need of teaching advanced skills. They were a good transition. Yes?
Can you share with us what drew you to the teaching profession and what keeps you there?
Carol threw me into politics. This is called a softball question. Because Carol knows that my start came from a woman named Sally Shipley. Sally Shipley was my high school debate and forensics teacher and was the most powerful influence in my professional and personal life outside of my own family. Carol knows her very well. She is a profound educator, profound teacher, and I have a squad of 150. She had squads of 400 and 500, and knew every one of those kids. And she, for me, is the model for developing relationships with kids. And she knew all of her kids very, very well, to the point where they really rallied around her, and that's what made the program successful. So for me, it was Sally Shipley. That's the person. I talk about that in the book. I talk about Sally Shipley. Yeah.
I think it would be interesting for a sequel to your book, Katrina, to talk to each one of these people and say, tell us who inspired you It's probably
Oh.
it's going to be a teacher, but and maybe write a book on those teachers. I don't know. Be kind of interesting.
Yeah, the teachers who inspire teachers,
Right.
yeah. Yep.
Or made you who you are today.
Just branch out.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you hear that, Katrina?
Was that
She just gave you,
just from Josh's response was the suggestion that we do that would make a great book to do a book of the teachers that inspire teachers?
yes,
Is that what it was?
yes, that was the suggestion.
I think that's a fabulous idea.
But I think you have it on film. She's got copyright on it. You gotta have to work that out after the meeting. Other questions? Well, Tyler, I think I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Well, Josh, stay right there.
I'm good at not moving. Things I do best. Okay.
We've just got a quick, in token of our appreciation for your time this evening and your time tomorrow with our workshop and your time tomorrow evening with the banquet. We are really proud to present you with a little certificate in our appreciation.
Thank you.
I'm a Hornet. Congratulations
Love it.
on your profile. And we're so proud of you.
And it goes on the wall.
And it goes on the wall of your classroom, so everybody in your classroom knows you're a Hornet.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Josh.
great.
And I am also delighted to make a presentation. If I could ask Susan Brenner to come forward. Yes. We sent, Katrina, we sent out, we're so, where's the camera here? We're so happy about this book. And we're so pleased indirectly that Emporia State is here. We're so proud of Josh and Ron. And we're so appreciative of your taking time out of your busy schedule and joining with us tonight. This is something that we want to share. And when I say that we, I'm talking about not just the Teachers College. I'm also talking about the Emporia State University Alumni Association. I'm also talking about the National Teachers Hall of Fame. So we are providing copies of your book to all of the high schools. And there's 17 high schools total that are in this Lyon County where Emporia is and all the surrounding counties. And I'm so pleased that the principal of Waverly Junior Senior High School is here tonight, Susan Brenner. And Susan, this is your copy of Katrina's book.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here. Closing thoughts. I don't think there's been any other time in the history of America where we need heroes in the classroom more than we need them right now and into the foreseeable future. To kind of just play off of what Josh has indicated, you know, having a classroom teacher that can build those relationships, that can nurture those relationships, that can take the raw material of the child and in developmentally appropriate ways inspire the child, build the knowledge, build the processes, and be able then to pass that off to a competent professional at the next grade level, wherever the school is critical for our nation. We have, of course, in Kansas, we do have an issue with poverty. Poverty brings its own challenges into a school setting. That's also something that we as teacher preparation programs, whether public or private, we need to be able to do a strong job of preparing our teachers with the pedagogy of poverty, because it's a different process. That's one of just a number of challenges, but a number of opportunities. We have at Emporia State what we call the Teachers College Conceptual Framework. These are 6 competencies that we require of our students as they pass through the program, both undergraduates and graduate students if they're working on advanced programs. That first competency is that students recognize and appreciate the service that they provide society through their professional behaviors. That's something that's a disposition, that's an attitude that we want them to internalize over the time that they're at Emporia State University. Through the classes they take, through the field experiences that they have, through the interaction with other teachers, through the interaction with faculty, It's all about recognizing the importance of the role that they fill when they're in that classroom, whether it's a kindergarten classroom or that AP English classroom. And that is very critical into the responsibility that we want all of our teachers to feel. You have amplified through your book and through your efforts that important responsibility. For that, we are very, very grateful for what you have done. And the challenge is in front of us, but the countless opportunities to provide those kind of teachers, like a Josh Anderson or a Ron Poplau, that's our motivation every day. So thank you through your book for this opportunity this evening, and for being here and sharing that with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think that's, any other comments? Oh, yes. And Katrina, did you want to say anything as a closing comment?
Oh, you know, the only thing I thought about doing was reading a short, very short little excerpt, sort of letting one of the teachers speak in conclusion. This is Angie Miller, who's a English language arts and publishing teacher in New Hampshire. She teaches 7th graders, and this is towards the end of her piece in the book. She talked to me a little bit about her own struggles and satisfaction. Some days I am successful. Some days I am the best teacher for a specific child. But often when the bell rings, I sit and quietly reflect that no matter how much I juggled, I did not meet every need. Being a teacher leaves me with a constant sense of doubt. I want to do more, and I want to do it better and faster, and I usually have to do it with less. In reality, teachers are heroes not because we are amazing sacrificial creatures, but because we are people determined to overcome the flaw of ordinary humanity for the sake of a student. Every single teacher struggles every single day to effectively reach their students, to make their students' education relevant and powerful, and to inspire them and instill self-confidence. I wish more teachers would see that if their students feel alive, engaged, and immersed in their world, they would perform better in any arena, testing or the real world. I want to shout from the rooftops to all of these teachers: take risks, try new things, encourage creativity, learn from your students, throw open your doors, roll up your windows, push hard, expect a lot, but always allow for the unexpected. Don't be afraid to give your students control of the classroom, because you will often be surprised at the direction that their hearts, thoughts, and dreams will take them, and you. That's Angie Miller. And I believe that that is really, to me, I thought about that little piece of text since I wrote the book. And it inspires me, it really does. I came away feeling that I had a whole new, not just appreciation, but understanding of how 24 hours a day, 7 days a week a job teaching is. Great teachers don't stop working, really, ever, as far as I can know. And I can think of really no other job in which that's the case. So I tip my hat to you. This is your community, and it's up to you to make it what you want it to be. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like there's cookies. Carol says there's cookies and lemonade over here. So, thanks, Katrina. We will send you a virtual cookie and lemonade. Okay, go have some in your fridge.
Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Take care. Congratulations.
Good night.
Night.